So, continuing the Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, King Gautamiputra, in the previous 3 sessions we have covered the first 45 verses. Mainly the segment we are going through is the perfection of wisdom, which has just started from the verse number 45. This is in order to attain the definite goodness, which is enlightenment. One has to persevere to first train in the 5 powers, and then now one goes to how to remove the hindrances in traversing the 5 powers. So the verse number 46 that we have got reads. Reads here, repeatedly contemplate that as one is unable to escape sickness, aging and death. This is saying that one needs to first of all create some degree of power of faith, diligence, mindfulness, power of faith in the triple gem, and diligence in practicing the Dharma, and mindfully learning to abstain from the wrong deeds and mindfully adopt the right positive deeds. One has to meditate on the inevitability of the sickness and aging and the death. Because when the more frequently one meditate on this, that much it will increase our vulnerability, our susceptibility to aging, and sickness. Aging, of course, you only experience aging if you reach until, say, age 45 onwards, maybe you experience the aging. But sickness you could experience way before that. A sickness could come as young as an infant, as a toddler, and so there are lots of people who have lost the only child before they can even walk. Some before they can crawl, others in their prime youth. So therefore one needs to contemplate. If you don't contemplate on sickness, aging and death, people become very, very lazy and become very, very idle and put off their practice of Dharma and important things in life. So likewise, one's karma is one's own action. So this is talking about, if one contemplates on these things, even one dies, death cannot be avoided by thinking of death. But the one who is mindful of dying lives very well while they are alive, and therefore make provision that when they die, they can the karma that they created while they're alive would be not something they regret at the moment of death, but rather feel they have no regret at the moment of death. If they did that, then they know the karma or action they created in this life will follow the very consciousness. The consciousness can be separated from the body and aggregates and a name and gender and all the identity from the body, but the consciousness cannot be separated from the very karma that is imprinted onto the consciousness. So therefore one needs to be mindful in order to avoid the hindrances onto the path, conceit, which is sense of pride, self-pride, because if one meditate on the sickness, aging and death and the subject to the law of karma, we don't develop pride, saying I'm above the karma, I'm above the death and aging. Everybody is subject to death. That's why the Shakyamuni Buddha is a prince. Even at the young age of 29, he hasn't yet experienced any form of aging. He's in a prime youth. But he knew that if he's above aging and death and karma, he will be fooling himself. So with this in mind, in order to traverse through the path, one needs to meditate on these points, what we have read. Now, after removing these hindrances, by not becoming complacent, but meditating on the inevitability of death and suffering of aging, suffering of losing one's independence, and not having the ability. You can't ransom your karma by paying money. You can't ransom your karma by having powerful friends. You can't ransom karma by running fast. You can't ransom your karma by flying high. You can't hide under mountains by your karma. Karma will follow like the bird wherever it follows. It is followed by the shadow. So therefore, without such a conceit, one should abandon this sense of self-pride and have the humility to practice Dharma. And then the next verse, verse number 47, goes to talk about how to create the conducive causes of developing the realization of the right view. Yeah, and for this. This is talking here. It says, in the higher realm, if higher realms and liberations are sincerely desired, which most people seek to practice Dharma in order to be reborn in higher realms, and because they don't want to fall in lower realms. Even if such persons' practice were to, were sincerely desired, but if you just merely seek to reach higher realms without the right view, thoroughly meditate on the right view. So, right view, he's talking about the 4 seals of Dharma, which is elaborated in the next verse. 4 seals of Dharma. Yeah? Even good deeds done by one with wrong views all have unbearable results. So therefore, even if lots of people do good deeds, a lot of generosity, a lot of charity, tolerance, maybe, but if they have the wrong view in clinging to the good deeds as something for themselves, or they did on their own, then it will have very consequences that one may not like it. So therefore, right view is essential to realize the right view. So otherwise, all the right actions, or even kindness that we render to someone, we help somebody so many years, and now we become resentful subsequently. It's because we lack a right view. If we have right view, we shouldn't be such a resentment and expectation. We don't have that. We feel even more grateful that we've been able to do the things through them. We don't have any attachment because we would have developed the right view. So here, therefore, it's now going to elaborate how to meditate on the four seals of Dharma. Because 4 seals of Dharma goes to the 5 powers. 5 powers. The 5 power here is now being elaborated in the next verse. Know that humans are in reality impure, unsatisfactory, impermanence, and devoid of self. These are the 4 seals. 4 seals meaning these are 4 facts. These are truths that you can't break. If you put your signature, you're bound by your signature, isn't it? So when Buddhism says 4 signature, this means 4 signatures, basically. 4 signature of Buddhism, Buddha's teaching. How do you know it's Buddhist signature? That it says all human body is from the skin all the way to the bones are impure. Meditating on that is very important because people are actually thinking their body is something so beautiful and to become attached to. We're not trying to denigrate beauty of youth and people who comparatively might have a good body and so forth. We're not trying to denigrate that. We're just trying to make so that people do not develop this wrong idea that body is some pure substance, pure thing in itself. Body, from the very skin all the way down to the marrows, are basically impure. If you look at the body, there isn't anything that is intrinsically pure in itself. So body is regarded as a bag of 36 impure substances. I wouldn't go into it. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. So that's the mindfulness body, is mindful body. Traditional Buddhist mindful body is meditating on the impurity, unpleasantness of the body. Why we have to meditate on unpleasantness of the body? Because if we don't meditate on unpleasantness of the body, we think the body is pure. We desire something. We want, possess, hold, and so on. And as a result of that, we create lots of self-harming, mutually harming karma by attachment to the figures and bodies and forms. So it is in order to remedy this wrong view that things are pure, one is taught to meditate. Right view is a signature, Buddha's signature. Because if it's pure, then of course it will stay pure, but it's not. It is impure by its very existence self. The body is actually impure, made out of impure things. It came from blood of the mother and semen of the father. If you look at the blood, nobody say it's clean. Leave it there, I like it. And nobody will say it's so pure, so nice. Don't say, oh, blood stain, quickly have to wash and clean. And semen and so on, you know. So how could any product made out of these impure causes could be pure? So this is not denigrating human body. This is to reduce our wrong view in thinking that we desire some pure objects, pure body. There is no. Second seal is that all feelings are unsatisfactory. See, second is unsatisfactory. All feelings are unsatisfactory. Because even you feel good, it's only for a while. How quickly is it lost already. You know, all feelings are unsatisfactory because they are temporary. They are very temporary, and they are mainly ruined and controlled by things outside you. Or you like the weather so much, you go in the sun, and quickly after a while, the satisfactory sun become too hot. So there is no feeling. Even you feel very close to someone, then you get tired of them, and then you just wish they went away. You know, can you please go away? They say. These all feelings are very, very unsatisfactory. So we must not get attached to the attention of others or caring for others. We should appreciate for sure, but not get attached to them because they are not satisfactory. In the long run, it has got nothing satisfactory. So this is the signature of Dharma. This is the truth. Most human beings are lost. They have the wrong view. They want something. They have the completely worshipping the wrong views. So this is the whole thing. And so the third one is when it says impermanence in all thoughts. This third one is thoughts, you know. Mindfulness of your thought is all thought are impermanent. So don't worry, opinions, views, ideas, you know, don't give too much credence to them because they're all impermanent. When you really look at a thought, it's no longer there. You change. You had a thought before, it's already gone. So if the thoughts are impermanent, the subject of course will be even more impermanent. So don't worry about your thoughts and don't regurgitate past thoughts and try to go in the past. People's sadness comes because they couldn't let go of some thoughts. So thoughts are this teaching says that it is non-existence, impermanent, because it looks there. When you look at it, you can't see a thought. You can't photograph a thought. You can't photograph a thought. You know. You can't see the thought. So thoughts are impermanent and devoid of self. The fourth one is that there is no self. There's no truly existing self. These are the four fundamental signatures of Dharma, four seals of Dharma. Those who do not mindfully contemplate on these four, you know, are ruined by the four wrong views. Four wrong views are opposite of these four. Yeah, thinking that body is pure or something. So you are so attached to someone or to your own look or appearance, and then people spend hours to change their form and appearance. Even if they change, they make look a little bit more fresher and stronger. But how long it will last? You know, it's completely wasted. You see? So the wrong view is clinging to these good, clean things. Body is being clean or pure. It's not. It's actually impure. So what's the point of developing this right view? It remedies your wrong view, the attachment and desire and clinging and possessiveness we have power to let go. Then we are free. We have power to let go because otherwise we are addicted. We think it's good, but actually not good. And then we know poison as poison and medicine as medicine. When you don't take poison, as medicine, you don't get sick from the poison. And so that's why it's called, it will ruined by the wrong views. Most every day-to-day sufferings all come from these 4 wrong views. It's very powerful. That's why 4 seals of Dharma. These 4 foundation of mindfulness is the 5 cause of developing 5 powers in the path of meditation. So now to elaborate this further, it is said that form is not self. Now, reason the body is not only impermanent, not only impure, but it's not even self. So there now we have to meditate on that the form, the physical body is not self. If it is, which part of the form? Is the head part of the form, and the nose part of the form, or leg? Or if you think your leg is you, then you are 2. Then there are a lot of non-leg part of the body, so there are a lot of other bodies. So therefore, form is not self. So don't get attached to the body as self. Self does not possess form. Nor is the self is the possessor, and the form as the possessed. So if the body is the possessed by self, where is the possessor? You have to find the possessor. Second is self does not reside in form. Some people think there is a kind of innate self in the body. There is no body to be found in the whole body. They go and search, they can't find self in the body. They can find intestine, they can find lungs and livers and hollow parts and hard parts and bones. They couldn't find self in there. So you don't find resident self there. There's no resident self. And form does not reside in self, nor is other way around, The self is the container and the form is the content. It's not like that. So these are 4 very important philosophical views. And so if you understand these 4 is a very important one. This form is not self, self does not possess form, self does not reside in form, and form does not reside in self. These 4 times 5. Now you multiply that with the 4 other aggregates. That's what it says. The next page, it says, understand the remaining 4 aggregate also is empty. So you can also look at in the feeling, Feeling is not self. So you have to, feeling is not self. Self does not possess feeling. And self does not reside in the feeling. And feeling does not reside in self. Like that, you apply with that rest of the other aggregates: form, feeling, perception, and volition, and consciousness. So these are sometimes those who do not have these correct views, they have wrong views. They have 20 wrong views. This is 20 wrong views. 20 wrong views. If you understand one right view, then all these 20 wrong views are remedied by these right views. So the Tibetan Buddhism usually have the cross vajra. The cross vajra has 20 spokes. These 20 spokes symbolize these right views. Is remedy through the 20 mountains of wrong view, they call it. The mountains of 20 wrong views. So of course this you can meditate analytically about one of the 5 aggregates. Start with form because it's more tangible, whether self is form or not. If the reason that people think self is form is they think that the self is permanent, independent, truly existing. Now, then check whether the form is permanent. It's not permanent. It's getting older or tired or hungry or changing. So there isn't any likelihood, any similarity to the permanentness of self, or independentness of self. There isn't any independent in the body. The body does not exist independently. It is dependent on something else. So it is not truly existing because it doesn't exist from itself. It's just merely labeled by us. So therefore, you realize that our notion of self whether it is form or has form or reside in form or self-reside in form or vice versa, these have to be all analyzed in relation to these three factors, whether it is permanent, whether that any of the five aggregates are permanent. It is not. None of them are permanent. And any of the five aggregates are unitary, meaning singly, wholly existing, just one unit. It's not one unit, it's aggregates. Aggregate means mixed, put together many things. And therefore, is any of these aggregates are independent? No, they are dependent. So what is dependent and non-unitary, and therefore, what you call impermanent, is no proof of self. Yeah, it's exactly opposite. So because of that, there is no self that is truly existing in any of the five aggregates. So, and then you meditate. When you meditate this, your suffering, your feelings, your emotions about something, you can then disown them. You can realize, you can see you don't have it. You are not it. You had it, but you don't have it. So it's not there. Yeah, it's not truly existing. It's dependent on some other factors. So as a result of that, you therefore learn to meditate on emptiness. So because this is the right view, meditation on perfection of wisdom. Leading to the meditation on perfection of wisdom. It says, the aggregates arise neither at random nor from time, nature, and their own essence. So that's aggregates refers to your body, your feelings, and so forth. They do not arise at random, meaning by not random causes does not create the aggregates, like body, We are not randomly conceived in mother's womb, for instance. There are causes and conditions. That only when the causes and conditions are dependent on each other, then it arises. So it's not random. No from particular time. There is no set time. So this is referring to the factor of time, as well as nature. It doesn't arise from its own nature. Nor has got any particular essence. Nor from Ishwara. Ishwara means God. Because in India, people believe that everything is creation of God. And the rest of the world also, most theistic religion think that we are creation of God. So here it is refuting that nothing is creation of God, nor without cause. But we are not denying the causality of it. So therefore, understand that they arise through ignorance, karma, and craving. Now these three are important because these three means that it is now taking into consideration of more than one as a cause. Yeah. So therefore, it is due to ignorance, due to affliction of clinging to the aggregate as self, for instance, thinking I am my body. In this consciousness, this very wakeful life, most people are complete slave to the body. They're constantly all about them and their body because they're ignorant that the body is not self. And on the basis of that, they enslave themselves to create karma. Then they do many actions. Karma means actions. Under the influence of ignorance, one creates a lot of actions to think the body should be permanent. I should look this high, this slim, then I'm real. Otherwise, I'm miserable. That kind of ignorantly grasping to wrong notion, and therefore grasping to the wrong form as truly existing, and create karma under that pretext, and therefore developing craving again and again. And so therefore all the aggregates, which is our very physical aggregates, our body, our body that is impure but nevertheless a human body, is caused by past lives, ignorance, and craving. Created this body, this body. And so how well we may fare from future depends whether we succeed to reduce our ignorance and craving in this life. And in this life. So that is basically showing how the suffering of there is no self in the five aggregates, and yet the self is not something that did not come from the wrong or random causes, or is created by God. It came from these three: karma, ignorance, and craving. So, as long as there's the karma, ignorance, and craving, then it continues to create what is called the three. It calls the three fetters. Three fetters means three prisons, three shackles. So, in order to get rid of these, it says here, verse number 51, clinging to morality and behavior as a supreme. This refers to people who follow the wrong views and therefore hold to certain spiritual conduct, behavior, such as fasting, such as self-mortification in the name of God, or by suspending themselves on a piece of wood and hanging, or various kind of self-mortification practices that they think that spiritual discipline is superior than any form of practice. And so as a result of this, they grasp to self and as truly existing. Self as truly existing is fetter number one. Fetter. Fetter means the kind of chain. It chains you to samsara. Yeah. And second is that grasping to the 5 transient collections as self. So first is the subtle one, clinging to the notion of me, I. That's a little subtle, so difficult to have that fetter removed. Second one is clinging to the 5 aggregates as self. You hurt my feeling, they call it. They think the feelings are themselves, you know. So as soon as a person owns their feelings, or their form, or their perception, I saw you do this, I heard you say that, and then we think it's truly hurting us. So that is like clinging to the fetter. We are fettered, we are chained to our transient collection as me. You said this to me, I saw this type of feeling. So we hold them as truly existing. We don't see them as interdependently produced. We don't see the dependent origination. We don't see the impermanence. We don't see the lack of inherent existence. We don't see that. We see that as truly existing. That is the fetter. And the third one is doubting the liberation, whether we can gain enlightenment or not. Doubting. So it says here in your text here, the clinging to morality and behavior supreme, that's fetter number 1. Viewing one's body with the wrong views, body as well as the 4 other aggregates as truly existing self, that's fetter number 2. And doubt in the what? Doubt in the law of cause and effect, and liberation and enlightenment. And because one who is consumed by doubt, we often say, is possessed by demon. So one who is consumed by doubt could not make any decision what to do or what to not to do, and have no ability to have faith in the law of karma or liberation, and therefore couldn't be bothered doing the practices, and couldn't be, because one is mainly consumed by doubt, and so one is stuck from making any decision, like anxiety and doubt. And anxiety and depression is usually caused by doubt. They have a huge question about themselves, or their ability, or their goal, what they seek to do. So these things can greatly hinder one's progress. And so that finishes how to prevent these karma, ignorance, and craving by learning to free oneself from these 3 fetters. So now verse number 52 onwards is talking about how from here onwards we can change that in spite of these temporal fetters meaning obstacles we might have, we can combat these fetters and obstacles mentioned above by developing 3 conducive factors. The conducive factor is that liberation depends upon oneself. So it's talking about that that liberation is not going to become from anything but one's own ability to unshackle oneself from one's karma and affliction and craving. So being able to unshackle oneself from one's own karma and affliction means that one alone is dependent. One alone can help oneself to free oneself from the sufferings, from the karma and affliction. So that's why it says liberation depends upon oneself. And in this, no assistance can be given others, meaning that even Buddha could not suspend a rope or something so that we can be lifted to the heaven, or just because you can do this or that, or you know somebody, or you pray to somebody. Not. So these are, of course, some kind of when you emphasize faith, we often mention that, but in actual Buddhist philosophy, that your liberation is not possible until your own karma, ignorance and craving are eliminated by your own active application of the path. So that's why it says there's no assistance can be given by others. We heard before that that you shouldn't create any karma even on behalf of your parents or your teachers or whoever it is, because that karma will only harm yourself. Likewise, even a good karma, even to be liberated from some samsara, it is only depends on your own ability to unshackle these three fetters. So what are the three remedies? The three remedies are study, morality, and concentration. It says here, through study, morality, and concentration, exert yourself in the four truths. So it is exhorting oneself to become familiarized with the four truths, four noble truths, basically. If one is able to, adhere to a very, firstly, study the Dharma. If we don't know the Dharma, we don't know how to behave. We may behave in a particular way, but we get attached to our behavior for our own gains or respect and honor. Worldly Dharma, they become worldly Dharma. When you study the Dharma, it teaches you that even if you are moral, but if your purpose of morality is to attract people's respect and gain some respect and honor and so on, then it will be cause of further samsara. So therefore, one who study the Dharma will know that. And so, first one is to study the Dharma and then adhere to the moral ethics appropriately, and then one's moral ethic will empower oneself to closely adhere to the practice of concentration meditation, and then you will know the four truths. Meaning, you will know the four truths means truth of suffering, truth of origin, truth of cessation, and truth of the path, because those are the only truth Buddha talked about. And if possible, those four truths have some 4 subsegments in each of them. There are 16 particular meditation on top of that. So one needs to do that. So these are talking about when you equip with the study and morality and concentration, slowly you will lean more onto the 4 truths as the cause of liberation. If you know the first 2 truths, then you know what are the suffering, what are the origins. And you will not mistakenly apprehend some non-cause of suffering as cause of suffering. You will truly recognize the true cause of suffering coming from one's own karma and affliction, not from other people's action at all. We used to think like that. But as a result of having the 4 noble truths as our possession, this is a wealth, Now we have this wisdom, like our eyes, cataract has been removed because we are seeing the truths. We know what is suffering, what is the origin of it, and then we also know the impermanence of it. And we know that even the self itself is not truly existing, and not any of the 5 aggregates. When we get to know this, then we are able to put an end to the suffering, and therefore we will be able to gain liberation. So liberation depends on yourself understanding the 4 truths. Sure, you can do prayer, you can do other things, but these are just like various props for this realization. If you, even prayers are props. Props means just a little accompaniment, so that you realize the four truths. If you don't realize four truths, how many mantras you recite, you can just make the mala a little bit shinier. maybe you can recite many mantras by heart. But we have to recite the mantras also to speed up the realization of the four truths. Then the mantra has, then liberation is definitely depends on yourself. So therefore now it's going to go highlight that if that's the importance of it, then how can we now fully equip ourselves to develop realizing the four truths by practicing the three higher trainings, three higher education, we can call it three higher education. Some Buddhist scholars call it higher education because training sounds like a very specific, like the modern trainings or something, High educations, these are highly liberative art, liberative art. And so, and this is covered in the always train in noble morality, noble wisdom, and noble mind. More than 105 precepts are impeccably included within these three. So in this verse number 53, 53 is talking about in order to achieve the nirvana or attain enlightenment, which is free from 7 abandonments, one needs to practice the higher training of self-discipline. Let's call this higher training of self-discipline, morality. And when, due to higher training of self-discipline, one will then tread the path of the Arya or exalted beings, and then one is able to develop the higher training of meditation, which is meditation. Meditating meaning becoming present and aware of your own mind. You know exactly why your mind has to be tamed and trained. That's higher training of meditation. So discipline is so that you can actually discipline your mind. Of course, firstly there's a sort of social behavior that you have to do. Adopt this, reject that, don't eat that, this sort of thing. But all of those things are so that we can actually train and tame our mind through the higher training of meditation. Why? Through the higher training of meditation, you have higher training of wisdom. See, therefore these are three higher trainings. Higher education, we can call three higher education. Through the higher training of self-discipline, we ripen our unripened mentality, become ripened, meaning it changes us, it completely matures us. And higher training of higher education of meditation, we are able to suppress and remedy our own afflictions, not just behavior. You can pull a brave, nice behavior to outside to pull other people's respect. That's easy, but afflictions are much harder to reveal. So the second training is education, is the meditation. Meditation actually goes to suppress and remedy the afflictions, the root and secondary afflictions. And then the higher education of wisdom is going to liberate oneself, uproot the very grasping to self, uproot the very grasping to self. So these three higher educations, what we have got in verse 3, will then empower the individuals, whatever, like here is talking about 105 precepts. It's talking about the various categories of a fully ordained monk's vow, usually four defeats and 13 remainders and 30 abstentions and 90 and so on. So there are the number of categories altogether. They amount to that, or in particular sets of precepts that you may adopt yourself to practice. When you start to do that outwardly, like taking the 8 precepts for 4 hours in retreat when we do. So one slowly start to do that. Once one is able to restrain one's senses and moderate one's food and reduce one's desire and simplify one's life and time and meditate, then this discipline will clarify your mind. Then you'll be able to suppress and remedy your afflictions. And then through this, then you can see the relationship between the higher education of self-discipline, higher education of meditation, and higher education of the wisdom, this wisdom. So now, in order to create further cause to regain the realization of these three, verse number 54, Nagarjuna calls his friend, "O noble one, King Gautamiputra." Sugata taught. Sugata refers to the Su means good or bliss. Gata means gone, the one who has gone from bliss to bliss. So it's an epithet of enlightened ones. Sugata has taught mindfulness of the body as the soul path. So it's talking about that one needs to meditate. One needs to meditate on the mindfulness of one's body, for instance. This is talking about that whatever the body is going through, one should see the body as something impure, unsatisfactory, and so on. So when you are able to meditate on that, then you do not become slave to the body, but rather master of the body. So by being able to meditate on the body and guard this with focused attention. So therefore one needs to guard one's five senses. Guard one's five senses. As mindfulness is mindfulness of guarding and restraining one's senses. Not seeing or not hearing the way you hear, not seeing the way you're witnessing, but when you're mindful, you can change your seeing, change your hearing, because you are able to employ the mindful. Guard means like a guard sits at the door and not let anybody come in without screening them. Likewise, we also remain like a guard to our own eyes and ears and speech and the thoughts, and what we do with this body to other person, what we say to whom, why, and so on. When we are able to guard this with focused attention, loss of mindfulness will destroy all dharma. Because if you lost the mindfulness of this body and speech and so on, then that is like a leaking vase. It looks very beautiful, but when you pour the thing in the vase, it leaks. It will not retain anything. Likewise, even though you have discipline, but if you don't have the mindfulness to guard your own senses, no matter, most people are pseudo-morality, pseudo-social morality, just to look good to outside. Deep down, one has no sense of awareness what one needs to change within oneself. So it's like instead of a leaking vase is destruction, Loss of mindfulness destroys. Whatever you pour into the vase, it will all leak from there. It will not retain anything. It only looks like a vase, but it doesn't retain anything. So therefore, that kind of pseudo-morality, superficial, artificial morality, simply the social one, that people do, one should therefore guard practicing such thing and prevent oneself from experiencing loss of mindfulness, which destroys any dharma one might have. So that it's talking about the demerits of losing mindfulness. Now, the third one is how to create a support, how to create a support so that your mindfulness is a little bit more reliable. Why come we are so forgetful? That's what the problem is. So in order that forgetfulness can be prevented, what is the support we have? First is meditating on that you have to meditate on the impermanence of your own body and your life of it. Not just the body, but life of the body, the duration of the body. So that's why verse number 55 goes to say that life being susceptible to many harms is more impermanent than a wind-blown bubble of water. More wondrous is the leisure of inhaling one breath, having exhaled one another, and awakening from sleep. So it's talking about the wondrousness that our life is actually so fragile, just like a lamp put in the windy place. Yeah, it's got a big, good container, good oil, strong wick, and it's already lit. But chances of if being blown away is very easy because there's no shelter, nothing protecting. So our life is like that, isn't it? So many people went somewhere and never returned. They were just on the way, they disappeared. So life is so fragile, like a lamp in the middle of the windy place. And here, of course, just like a bubble. He gives the analogy, quite a few analogies, like a lamp in a windy place, or a water bubble. Even without being windy, it will burst. You can see a bubble, frothy bubble, and how long does it stay? Bubble. He says these things you think they're very impermanent, but our life is even more impermanent, because when we breathe out and we don't breathe in, that's it. It's so the life and death is very, very just a question of not a year, not a question of another month. The question is whether we will inhale again. He says, isn't it wondrous that we are breathing in again? So it is very fragile. It's almost like a tire could puncture any time, So because it's already on the road, you never know what's on the road. Your tire may look good, but if it's touched one, it can burst any time. So so one should meditate. We have friends who are younger than us. We have family members who perish half our age, or a couple of younger than us. We never knew they will ever fall prey to such instant, short-lived death. But yet this has happened. Isn't it wondrous? Isn't it magical that we have survived thus far and not quite happened that way? You can't say, I'm strong, I have money, I have friends. You can't say, I have oil, I have strong wick. You can't say that. If the wind is strong, it will rob the lamp from burning. So one must meditate on that impermanence. When you meditate on impermanence, it becomes a support, so that we do not become meditating, we do not cling to the body as permanent, long-lasting. We will not, in the illusion thinking my body will live long. How can your body live long? If you are 45, how long do you live? 45 is pretty long. That's a miraculous lamp that didn't blow in the wind. But you can say, I got another 20 years of lasting oil. Yeah, but still the wind may come from one moment and it can go off very quickly. So meditate on that. Why is meditation on that very important? Is when you remember meditate impermanence, then you don't see the point of anger, you don't see the point of punishment, you don't see the point of guilt and resentment and craving and desire and possessiveness and domination. All of those success-seeking mind, it become completely illusory. Most think that it will be successful will be death. It will never fail. It will not fail. So, by meditating on death, one will not get attached to the body and life as a permanent thing, which is very powerful. Teaching says it's impermanent, but we have to meditate how it is impermanent. It's very, very fragile. Very, very fragile. And this is highlighted by next verse 56 rather. The body is inevitably become ashes, dried up, rotten, impure, lack essence. It disintegrates, desiccates, putrefies, therefore understand as a subject to dispersal. That is true, sooner or later we are inevitably going to become ashes if you are cremated. If you're cremated, if you're buried, you will dissolve into the ashes, dissolve into the bones and everything. With the coffin, everything become part of the soil and the worms. So that's exactly what the body is going to happen. That's only the body is going to happen. Some people put the body in the river and quickly eaten by fish and all the creatures, And in Tibet, we do other ways of we feed by the birds, the vultures, and so that's what inevitably is going to be like. So therefore, don't get attached to the body as something permanent, real, truly existing thing. It is a subject, it is made up of elements. When these elements no longer can hold together, it will disintegrate. And why we have to meditate on this? This is to reduce attachment to clinging, to permanence. As the body was going to last very long. So not only it's in emptiness, but you can see actually it's hollow. It's hollow. It's like a plantain tree. Tree looks very straight, but when you cut it, it's empty inside. Likewise, whatever we try to focus too much material things, we should think that this very body that we wish to have these, attain these, possess these, itself could disintegrate and collapse any time. If we are able to acquaint, means familiarize with this thought, you can see your attachment will be reduced to whatever it is, regarding this way or that way. Even you're angry to somebody about whatever they did, you will see no point in that. You know, I'm going to be vanish myself so quickly like this, there wouldn't be any reason to be angry about these things. So you see the futility of anger, attachment, blame, guilt. So this is why these meditations are not to make us feel miserable. This meditation is to teach us how to live the misery, how to cut short the misery. You know, because if you really realize this, your misery about some issues will be cut short. You can stop suffering thinking like that anymore. You will be dead and become ashes in one day. And why you're going to stay angry about that very pitiful thing? You see there's no point in it. You grow up. You grow up in no time when you meditate on the impermanence. That's why Nagarjuna writing this stuff to the king. I mean, a king doesn't like to think like these things. He liked to think his body should be embalmed and then put in a mortuary that is like sitting there powerful, ever so powerful. He's teaching them. He said, no, you're not mortal body. You may have gold that can make you statue like that, but your actual body is just subject to disintegration. So this is remedy. This is like a medicine to prevent clinging to, because which makes the suffering last long, isn't it? Last long by having these wrong views in regarding the body. You may say, "Oh, are you sure?" You know. He says in verse number 57, it's not just your body that is impermanent. Even the whole universe, even the whole solar system is impermanent. He says, Earth, Mount Sumeru, the oceans, and all beings will be consumed by the 7 blazing suns. It will, if not, even dust will remain. What need to speak of the frail human body? It is said that according to Buddhist teachings on cosmology in Abhidharma, it talks about takes time the world to create this particular realm, and then how long it will last and when it will slowly disintegrate. So eventually it is said that even the solid universe, solid solar system, these huge cities, amazing monuments we have created, even the earth, even the 7 oceans like Pacific or Atlantic, they will not remain even a single drop. So even they will be completely burnt and become like a drought. Because if they saw 7 suns, you think one sun is bad enough, Wait until the second one comes. Wait until the third one. Wait until you get the 7 suns all shining together. Everything will be completely incinerated, basically. There won't be anything. So even the whole physical world, solar system, according to cosmology, will be completely disintegrated, not to mention my human body. So instead of thinking my body is alone, is impermanent, everything else is permanent, it's not like that. Even the very physical material world that looks so stable, like the earth, like the country, like the land and soil and things like that, there wouldn't be that, People already know that. They already said that. They already talk of climate change, Climate change is just very small tip of the iceberg. They're talking about the whole universe will be incinerated. So this verse number 57 is not just think of one's body, but even the whole universe will be incinerated. Therefore, what need there is to talk about your body, and so therefore there's no way you can escape impermanence, and it is constantly coming closer and closer towards us. Meditating on impermanence is a very powerful remedy for pride and attachment and anger as well. So that's why it was talking about how to unshackle these afflictions and craving and karma. Yeah. So by meditating on the impermanence, one is able to slowly reduce attachment, slowly reduce anger, and see the futility of clinging to anything as real and permanent. Thus, being impermanent. So this is talking about when you know that all physical human body itself from the outward to the inside, and even the whole of beautiful houses, gardens, all of them will be completely swept by just constant. If you just see the storms destroy those little, coastal cities and towns in no time. It's powerful nature. You can see, that would be only there even forecast. It will happen or something. But when the seven suns shine, they wouldn't have time to forecast. They wouldn't have forecasting ability actually. No transmission will work, and so everything will be. All things are. It says here that. All being impermanent, not just human beings, but also even the very container, the environment itself. Why? Because there is no self, lacking self. It is without refuge, guardian and resting place. O great one, so he's talking to the king. Therefore renounce samsara. It is hollow like a plantain tree, as I mentioned before. So therefore, this is just like a reminder, warning to the king Gautamiputra that don't get attached to this worldly appearance, material things, or even physical body, and don't invest so much attachment, so much energy, so much argument for little trivial things. Don't do that. Just drop it. Because if you don't if you try to argue and do these things, you are creating samsara, which is hollow, which has no meaning. So what's the point of having a straight tree when its inside is hollow? So what's the point of you trying to win the thing? You wanted to be the victorious one. You want to have your way and let them be defeated. All such worldly activities are cause of mutual hollowness. So renounce samsara, meaning gain this definite realization. It doesn't mean give up world. It means give up attachment to them. Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't need to use the things in the everyday world, but use them without getting attached to. Share them before they expire, and give things to each other, and heal each other by giving things instead of clinging and fighting over things. So it's talking about how to remedy the suffering, yeah? How to remedy the suffering. So Nagarjuna here is very much highlighting the importance that your life will quickly become like a vanish, and you will regret, and you won't be able to get this life ever again. So he says, therefore, next point is he's going to highlight that how you should therefore make this life meaningful, worth living, worth being born, worth being fed, worth paying rent, worth paying everything. Why you put so much effort doing this? For what are you keeping this vehicle for? Why you brought this to this world? What you must try to remember what is the for. Don't you know how hard it was to get this life as it is? No, we don't. We don't realize what karma we have created to warrant, to deserve this life, which hasn't perished last 50 years, which hasn't perished last 40 years. When many lives perish when we're barely 10 or 12 or 5 or 6, due to malnutrition, due to poverty, due to this. But why did we live, and we try to live? We bought insurance policies, we went to education. Why we do all that? What are you feeding these things for? So then you're going to highlight in verse number 59 that it is even more difficult for a turtle to intersect with the hole of a yolk in the ocean than to obtain a human birth from an animal birth, Lord of man, through practice of holy Dharma, make it fruitful. Now, this is a famous Buddhist story, or a hypothetical analogy, but nevertheless very, very important, saying that there is, for example, there is a blind turtle. Blind turtle lives in the sea, yeah? So blind turtles symbolize ignorant sentient beings, yeah? Ignorant sentient beings. And that he's in the ocean only once every 100 years. Otherwise, he always sit in the dark and like that, you know. His opportunity to surface his neck on the ocean is only once every 100 years. And then there is a golden ring floating like a life raft or something, floating on the ocean surface. Yeah. So ocean surface, the current, this northern current will blow it to the east, southern current will blow it to the west, and so on. So the chances of that turtle coming up at a particular point when he can put through his neck through that golden yoke will be almost impossible, isn't it? So like that, for us to find a human rebirth is even more difficult. So that means why? So what does the ocean represent? Ocean represents the vastness of the infinite possibilities of other rebirths. Putting the blind turtle putting his neck everywhere but inside the golden yoke is much more possibility, isn't it? So chances of us being born as animals, insects, dogs, and many more unfortunate forms of rebirth is much more greater possibility. It's almost like 1 in 99% is that. 1% is putting the head through the golden yoke, you know. So the golden yoke represents our human rebirth. It's very fortunate precious human rebirth. Precious human rebirth. And the depth of ocean and current represent the karma. The karma. Deep ocean is like ignorant. Blindness of ocean is ignorant people. The current represents your actions. Your actions are not helping you to put your head through the hole. You know, it's driving you from this to this. It happens in this life also. We were about to do something good, but just something completely bad went wrong, and then I could not rescue. So the vastness of the ocean symbolizes the vastness of rebirths, many forms of rebirths. And the chances of putting the neck through the only once 100 years, it means the rarity when the Buddha comes to the world, when you hear that living in this world, when the teaching is there. Also you have faith, also the existence of Dharma, where the freedom to practice Dharma. All these things are like very rare, like a golden yoke. So therefore Nagarjuna is using these analogies. This is not his original analogy. This is Buddha said in a sutra, you know. So it's not Nagarjuna's analogy, not Tibetan analogy. This is Buddha's analogy in sutras. In the sutras it says that, you know. So Buddha said, actually this text says that Buddha speaks to the monks, you know, about the long-lived earth turtle. He has to live many hundreds of years. The turtle lived many hundreds of years. And so that means that sentient beings who are born in a miserable rebirth, they live long life. Whole life is miserable. And those who are fortunate, human rebirth, like human, how many die malnutrition? How many die before they turn 20? Yeah? They have precious human rebirth, but they die too young. They have precious human rebirth, but they want to do materialistic things. They want to turn their back to Dharma. And so that shows how difficult causes and conditions might be. But yet we have found it. Yet we have been the one and only blind turtle that made it through, put the neck through the hole. So, therefore, you don't consider that there will be a chance to be born again in this fortunate rebirth because it will be much harder. Therefore, do not let this life go wasted. Yeah. So they're talking about the rarity of all the causes and conditions coming. Then all the ocean current is bringing the yoke here as soon as your neck come up. That's very difficult. Each of you think about your karma. I can think of my karma. We're born in this world. This is a relatively peaceful world rather than the war-ravaged world in the 40s. Even though, so now, about 60 years after that, we have much more peace, much more democracy, much more freedom, much more good rule of governance, and freedom to practice, study, lot of respect for all spiritual cultures, and more people very tolerant of each race, and this kind of, and then ability to study Dharma, have time, have leisure, is very rare. These are like all the golden yoke is coming to our neck, you know. So we must recognize that, appreciate that, meditate, spend some time at your home, just sit there and just meditate that this life is very, very precious. You know, this didn't come from non-causes. This came from correct causes. Yeah, the correct causes have ripened, and now, I must cherish this and do good in this life before it too will be lost very quickly. So, one thing was talking about impermanence before. Another thing is impermanence of this very precious thing. If impermanence of the small things doesn't matter, everybody values life, but this life itself. Heck, you have reason to. If anything is precious, we even wear jewelries, but only if we have a life, then the jewelry can be put on the ear of the living person. The jewelry is not put on the dead person's ear, you know. So because someone is alive and doing good, then they may wear good clothes, then they may wear jewelries, and then it's good, you know. So therefore, cherish your life. This is make it fruitful. See, Nagarjuna says, make it fruitful. I mean, do not let it go wasted by conquering the enemies and being biased against some, attached to another, engaging all these worldly tit-for-tat kind of activities. Don't do. That's fruitless. That's harmful, mutually destructive, fruitless. You wasted your whole life even being born as a king. So make sure your life is not go wasted, but make it fruitful. So talking about making it fruitful. How should one make it fruitful? He says that in order to make it fruitful, you got to value that. You got to value the precious human rebirth. Even more stupid than one who fills a jewel-crusted golden vessel with excrement is he who, having been born as a human being, performs evil deeds. So that means if you were to make it fruitful, you should learn to abstain from doing harmful things, physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally, evil deeds that harms yourself through anger or blaming others through anger, all such kind of activities, complaining, criticizing, shouting, yelling, throwing, all this kind of childish activities, evil, because it will upset your loved ones, people, friends, whatever you do. One should learn to abstain from these, because if one is doing these harmful things, then it's like a person who is a rich person can afford to, excrete. I mean, he can do the poo in the very good golden vessel, And he can do that, but still, well, he can do that, but nobody minds. But people would think it's really disgusting to do that. It looks like very disgusting when I first come to the West, see this beautiful enamel. Like a toilet. We don't see toilet in the third world countries. We don't have the real, actual toilets, It looks like people go in they sit in that room and throw their waste in that very shiny thing, Looks like wasting, but of course it doesn't stay in there. It goes straight down. It's pretty good. So we think, oh God, they're wasting so much enamel. But of course, here's Nagarjuna is talking about golden vessel in which you can put terrible, dirty things. People think, what a waste to use such a valuable vessel for such. So that what's saying is our human rebirth is very, very precious vessel. Don't put dirty things in it. You might wear good clothes. You might wear a very nice insulated house, air-conditioned house, carpeted room, everything. But inside you're holding hate. Inside you're holding anger and blame and guilt and judgment and that's, he says, that's like you're pooing every day on a golden vessel. Even that would nobody will notice. So he says, even it's so foolish, people doing harmful things. So Nagarjuna is using these analogies to King Gautamiputra, which is like us, that our life is also more precious than a gold crusted in a basin. Definitely so, because how you can never put a price to a life, can you? Life is very, very precious. So, but yet this has come from hard-earned karma and merit from many, many lives, and all the love and kindness and generosity that we have received from our parents and everybody in this life. So how could we possibly let that be wasted for such purposes? So Nagarjuna warns the king by this very vivid analogy of not letting one's life become bartered or exchanged with such a destructive thing. He who, having been born as human, perform evil deeds. So one should not perform evil deeds. This is highlighting, we were before talking about higher education, self-discipline, higher education, meditation, higher education of wisdom. So one who have the higher education is self-discipline. If people rise early or study hard or do whatever, they should not try to outperform somebody, not to become better than other people. And so that's kind of materialistic education. So we're talking about education that has high purposes and discipline that high purposes. Discipline that you are better than anybody is not a discipline, it's ego. So it's putting the poo again. Poo again. Poo again. So discipline that judges, one's discipline is good but judges others, again putting poo. So therefore one should learn how to abstain from such evil deeds. So that's a very important point. Now, verse number 64 highlights that. So now, if we are warned very satisfactorily, which is true, we are warned satisfactorily from wasting our life that is very precious by meditating on impermanence and death and so on, and realizing how precious this is, and warning that don't waste this life doing that. Then, so what should we do? What is the main support? What is the prevention? What are the things we can do so that we do not vomit in this such beautiful thing, but instead look after this gift, this precious life? We call precious life. Yeah, how can we not waste this? And so therefore it says dwelling in a favorable place. So here it talks about you should possess 4 great wheels. These 4 great wheels refers to 4 great supports. You should try to have these 4 great supports. People say what support you have, in every life, whether you are a nurse or whether you're whatever, you're traveling interstate, you want to see what kind of support you have, network of friends you have. So what are the 4 network of support you need to have? Firstly, it says, dwelling in a favorable place. Good karma to find a conducive place. Like Australia is a very, very beautiful place to live. You have no idea how many people risk their life to get here because it is such a beautiful place. We have more than precious human rebirth if you can live in Australia. So you have more double reason to think that life is even more precious when you have the good privilege in Australia, isn't it? First, we already got that. Stay in Australia, don't go anywhere. So stick to the values of here, and good freedom and governance and fair government and very good social service. And you just think about it. It is the right place. It is the conducive place. It is your karma ripen. Why? Because it is why it's a conducive place, because they have freedom to practice Dharma. You have freedom, you also have time. People don't work more than, say, 37 hours. And I don't know what else they do. The whole week has got 24 times 7. That's a lot of hours. So there's a lot of labor rights, rights of the worker. In a country where people have, you have freedom to practice Dharma. You have nobody saying you can't do. Like the Catholic guy goes to North Korea and try to promote Christianity. He gets arrested and he's deported. And I'll be deported every day. Why am I not deported from Australia teaching Buddhism? Because I'm in a very, very liberal country where there is a rule of governance, democracy. People respect religious freedom. And in many countries and places they don't. If not by government, just by the sheer poverty, sheer situation they don't have. People definitely have no time to practice Dharma. So we need to meditate on the conduciveness of the country and the place where we live. And then second one is rely on spiritual friends. It's talking about have good network of friends, spiritual Dharma friends. And if you don't have Dharma friend with whom you learn from or help each other, and that is the problem. Most people live in a very isolated place, and they don't get the support, and they have no one to study from or study with or learn or support each other, and so one should have some such adherence to the network of fellow practitioners of Dharma brothers and sisters. Do not necessarily have to be holy beings. It says they say rely on holy beings. I don't know how do you assess someone's holiness. Whether their feet touch on the ground or not, whether they have shadows or not. Talking about just knowing by associating with them, you're learning something good. It really makes you feel much more positive about things, gives you a new light direction that previously might be lost, and if it gives you direction, that probably is what it's talking about. And being of virtuous aspiration. So those two are external. Nice place, nice people around you. But those are the two outer conditions. But most importantly, the inner condition is you have to have a virtuous mentality. You have to have a good mind. You have to develop a good mind. Being virtuous aspiration means you actually believe in the Buddha. You actually accept the Buddha as teaching, Buddha and his teachings. Every time you read and think about it, you really could feel so much understanding and sensibility. And that is virtuous aspiration. You really don't think wrong views. You don't think you're too smart to be attracted by the teachings. Some people think they're too intelligent to be a Dharma person. They think they will lose their professional status or something because they may become Buddhist or because they may accept Buddha. There are some scientists who think like that. They're too scientists to be Buddhist or too religious, Of course, science is completely in agreement with Buddhism, if you look at the fact, the cause and effect. Buddhism is not afraid of science. It's actually want the science to listen. So that's why it's very important to have such good network. One thing is one's own attitude. It doesn't mean you're a blind faith person. Blind faith is not necessarily virtuous. It takes you very limited. But you do use intelligence and reasoning and logic and argument. Healthy argument discussion is very necessary. And also having previously performed merit. You can tell you have previously performed merit. Otherwise you wouldn't have been. We would have stayed as a blind turtle forever. See? See, we saw the light and we open our eyes. We've ceased to be blind turtle. We put our neck through the golden yoke. So that means we are not, without previously created merit, you cannot be born as a human being. Any time, let alone this time. Any place, let alone to be living in Australia and have the freedom, have the time, have the support. Some people want to study Dharma, they don't have support. They can't go, they don't want to do. Other people encourage by each other. That is a merit. That is immeasurable merit. You can't put a price tag to it. Some parents will control, partners will control them. You can't go. Oh, you're going twice a week. That's too much. Yeah, that's. Yeah, then they have. Yeah, there's a particularly in last 20 years ago, maybe things were like that. Yeah. Nowadays, the Dharma is a little bit more well known because of His Holiness Dalai Lama's holy name and his good work. Everybody knows it is good. It is good, and they say, "Oh, you go, you go." So these are merit. Merit is ripening, you know. Otherwise, people say, "Oh, I'm not sure," you know. In Wayala, I know, in 1997, 2001, His Eminence Chogi Teaching Rinpoche came to give teaching, and there were half a dozen people were holding placards protesting against the teachings, you know. So of course, that is still religious freedom, so they can't stop those other people hosting such teacher. They know exactly who they're hosting and why, so they cannot be discouraged. But, you know, such things happen, but in spite of that, those people stood firm and invited the teachers, opened their homes, and emptied their bedrooms, and hosted those teachers, and that's how Dharma was loved, because they have merit to do that. Others who don't have merit will drop away, because it's just like before they swallow, they spit it out. If they doesn't know what they are about to taste, you know. So those who have merit will actually flavor the taste. That's Dharma is not because of some cultural attachment or racial attachment or anything. Dharma is because you really can see the truth. And so those who can see the truth amidst all the thicket of wrong things, wrong ways, is definitely because they have what I call a previously accumulated merit. So we need to possess, we need to know we have these four. I have four, you know, here calls the Kollo Chenpoche, four great wheels. These wheels means vehicles. You now have vehicle with which you can travel to reach from the state, from one place to another, for instance. Likewise, in your mind, when you know that I live in a very special place, you will not be thinking of going somewhere and moving from one to another. You know this is a very happy country, lucky country. And you see that you are surrounded by whoever you are closest to. You're happy that you have this connection. You wanted to deepen this connection and enrich your life even more and increase your not just mere aspiration of faith, but validate it through experience. By practicing Dharma, not just merely having blind faith, but you realize you apply these teachings not only when you're listening they sound good, when you read they sound logical, but when you apply them even more sweeter. So that is the kind of real preciousness you couldn't lose, you know. So that is not a thing, because there's not just virtuous aspiration, but virtuous experience. You experience the taste of this honey, you know. You have to taste the honey. What actually is like that. So first you bought the honey, you never tasted it. But if you taste the honey, you know it's you can distinguish from lemon. When you can distinguish the Dharma in your thought, you're thinking dharmically, as a result of that, how much difference it made where you thought about the thing. And it completely relieved your neurosis, relieved your wrong views. It just put an end to the misery. And that is the the thing. You must see that in your own mind, talking about the possessing these qualities. When you see these possessing these qualities, then now you are fit, and now you're fit to put your feet on the path of liberation. It says the sage declared reliance on a spiritual teacher to be accomplished in pure deeds, hence rely upon holy ones, as did the many who attained peace through victor. So it says that anyone in the past who made progress on the spiritual path, they did so by adhering to a spiritual friend. He has a spiritual friend. You know, even Buddha had two teachers, you know. And of course later on Buddha quickly learned so fast that they can no longer have anything to teach. Even then he spoke highly of them. So everybody has progressed through us teacher. And by associating with a spiritual teacher, one will now, through the positive influence of them, then we will be able to do more positive deeds. Pure deeds means we will be able to influence more positive deeds, and we find ourselves more influence to do positive deeds and restrain the negative deeds. You can see the negativeness of negative, positiveness of positive. Just seeing negativeness of negative is already a positive. Whereas previously one couldn't distinguish that. So therefore you are leaning onto the. Hence rely upon holy ones. Because whether it's a Sangha community, or what you do with them, or together, or for each other, when you're starting to do that, then you can see that if you are among the Sangha, you can see there's some little bit of samsaric situation, but you're much kinder towards each other. You can definitely see these are Dharma friends. They're much kinder, more forgiving, because they have the correct view to treat everything as unsatisfactory, and so everything is unsatisfactory, so not just that. And because of that, you have the right view. Otherwise, you cannot take anything that is not so right because you're so intolerant. You can see that is the nature of samsara. And when you have that, that's because you are relying on the holy ones, because that's what Buddha said, that you've got to meditate on the universality of suffering, all pervasiveness of suffering, not just your life, not just your health or your life or personal life or financial life or whatever it is. You shouldn't dwell too much on that, because when you are influenced by people who are influenced by the holy Dharma, then you also start to think like that. And then you can see how your ability to cope with the difficulties is far better, because you have the like a raincoat, you don't get soaked. You are waterproof now. You're suffering proof, you're whinging proof, you're nagging proof, because you have the influence of the holy ones. You can have some dream-like feelings, but you don't stay in that anymore, in that sleep. You wake up from that sleep. So that's the benefit of relying on the holy ones. And many who attain peace through their victor. Yeah, everybody who found peace, love, or freedom is through the Dharma, through the Buddha. Victor means the Buddha. By remembering the Buddha, by remembering his teachings, and the influence that he has on many people, and influence that he has to our community, and how we, as anyone in the community, you see the goodness of them more easily than anything else, unlike the other sort of ordinary sentient beings who have no sight or who have no concept of Dharma. You can see the way they do things, the way they react to problems, difficulties. You can see they're completely in the dark. And then when you are around people who are more literate in Dharma, and then apply the Dharma in the everyday, you can see they're all soothed by the holiness of the Buddha. The Dharma of the Buddha is wafting like a smell. Beautiful aroma is touching them. Their life is sweet, in spite of all the bad, foul smells of life. They still have these. So you can distinguish these very clearly, and you must feel privileged. You must feel honored, and cherish that. Many who have attained peace through the victor. So there are all those people who are very. We put the photos of the teachers and the names of the holy gurus and chant them every practice. Why we have to call upon those teachers is because all of their life, however wretched their life was, Milarepa's life, all of their life was terrible. But by meeting Dharma, they completely turned the misery, turned the tragedy into opportunities, turned the misery to develop renunciation, turned the loss into spiritual gain, and instead of getting attached to material loss of a house and a parent and whatnot, but he used that as an opportunity to gain the spiritual opportunities. So all those people were changed tamed by Dharma. You can see that is the distinct flavor or influence that the Dharma has. So therefore, Buddha has declared that importance of staying close to each other in the practice of Dharma and doing good, and let the blessings of the Buddha and his teachings. Blessings of Buddha is not some touching or something like that. Blessings of Buddha is seeing the truth, seeing the four truths, and realizing them again and again. Every day you see, you realize you confirm the truthfulness of the Four Noble Truths. Oh, every day you look at it, reconfirms, reconfirm. It's just like reconfirming, you know. Daily refuge is just reconfirmation of your faith in the Four Noble Truths. It's not some counting of the prayers, you know. It's a reconfirmation. It's just putting the ink, inscribing on the rock. It's very strong. It stay there, you know. So you should inscribe until we say that in prayer again and again. We don't inscribe deeply in our bones, you know. When you meditate the Buddha, when you receive the Buddha, then there's no time distance between you and the Buddha and his teaching. Dharma becomes your spirit. You can start hearing things through Dharma. You can start examining things through the law of impermanence and unsatisfactoriness and emptiness and virtue of kindness and those things. You always start having these conceptual patterns helping you to screen the world and see the reality. Then you can see you become victorious. He says you can defeat the inner enemies. Then you're not pooing into that beautiful car, beautiful. then you're really honoring, those beings who live their life fully spiritually. When they die, their body becomes relics. Even the remains of the body become relics because that's what they did. The whole life is spent practicing, and so even the remains of the body becomes sharira, which means this just kind of tangible forms. Sharira means form, a body. They're sacred relics. And so that's why people go on pilgrimage, because they go and honor, pay homage to the stupas that enshrine the relics of the Buddha, of his teachings. Of course, the best relic is his teachings, but most people are illiterate to read the teaching. They want to touch holy things. But nowadays, we have a much greater opportunity to higher education of meditation, higher education of wisdom, because most people are literate. So they can actually read Dharma, understand, meditate, discuss, and discourse, and listen, contemplate, and then relate about this in your everyday life situation. Oh, about that I should think like this. About this situation I should think like that. When you apply that, then you can see the, because otherwise we were talking about all the hindrances and obstacles. And you will be tempted by those hindrances. But once we have learned to cherish this life as a good result of many lives' good karma, don't let go these wasted, and practice. Like it was said, first you study. Like that's what you're doing. Every time you're here, listening, you're studying. And you should read that text, and you should really go into deeper understanding, meditate on them. Then after you listen, you meditate on them. The truthfulness, just confirm them in your meditation. Not just formally in meditation, but confirm them in real life situation. You're doing your normal work, but you had a realization. A realization, there is no self. Yes, everything's impermanent. And so on. And as a result of that, I'll be dead one day, so why bother too much about this? And then you realize, you release your tightness and tension in your body and the mind. All the tight tension is dropped quickly because it's like clinging to permanence. Yeah, there is nothing permanent, and so you will let go. You can see how freeing it is, how liberating it is when the Dharma is when you hear the Dharma is good in the beginning. When you contemplate on the Dharma, it's good in the middle. When you meditate on it, it's good in the end. So it means when you meditate, when you first hear it, it's good. When you contemplate on later, it's even better. Because all the middle is covered. If you contemplate, if you ask going through some difficult time, contemplate on these 4 seals of Dharma. And then straight away, it is medicined. It is medicined. And then how big is the problem? You know, what is such a big problem you can't let go? Everything is not there anymore. There never was as it appeared. And when one is able to do that, you can see that you are actually associating with the 4 favorable conditions: place, people, attitudes, and your own merit. You recognize that. Recognize, acknowledge the good. You don't get time to be depressed about your life. You might have sadness of samsara to induce renunciation, but that shouldn't be, that shouldn't be deteriorated into kind of overwhelming sadness of samsara. That's not the purpose. It's to induce renunciation, to reduce attachment, anger, and resentment, and see the futility of them. When you have that, then you can see the good in the beginning that you heard in the teachings is now becoming your thinking. It is becoming your thought. You are thinking like the Dharma, and then you can see things so clearly for what they really are, not for what they appeared. And when things are impermanent, you don't get shocked to you. You know, confirmation. So it's the truth, because it's a signature you were binding. You put your signature, everything's impermanent. Yes, signature or not, you put a signature, and sure, everything is permanent. When things don't last, you wouldn't be screaming and yelling and reacting like a child, anymore. You wouldn't, because you have put signature. You were signatory to the 4 seals of Dharma. Maybe we haven't signed yet, but sure you will be made to sign. By attending these classes week after week, you're signing, you're signing, and you're signing in your mind, yeah. Because you not only believe in Buddha, but you can understand the Buddha. You can understand, and not just believing in the darkness, but it is good. But you really can see. You have to see why you are signing the thing, and the benefit of signing the thing. Even if you didn't sign, it still happens. So it might as a sign, isn't it? So those who sign have great benefit, bonus, because they know exactly what is it. They knew exactly what's going to happen. So it's not comes as a shock or cause of disbelief. See, that's how they are seasoned. They're seasoned by the holiness of Dharma, because they don't show despair and shock and loss and any of those worldly things. They will not suffer if their merit is adequate. Yeah. Intellectually we may know that, but sometimes we cannot do. You can see our merit is insufficient, so that's why we have to practice. That's what we have to. We have to practice. We have to confirm the refuge again and again, and so that with this we will stop here tonight. Verse number 62. So the merit of listening to the teachings is very good. It's even more good if we share it to others. And sure, we can share others. We can think of others who are not here. May they be also benefit, and we can think of them. And so this will, page 11.